My wife inherited $10 million and cheated me out of our marriage, then left saying she didn't need me. I never thought my life would turn out this way. Looking back, maybe I should have seen the signs, but love has a way of blinding you, doesn't it? My name is Nathan, and this is my story. I was born and raised in a small farming town where life was simple but honest. My parents, hardworking and devoted, instilled in me the value of labor, patience, and integrity. We weren't rich, but we never went hungry, and I grew up understanding that every meal on our table came from the sweat on our brows. My childhood was filled with early mornings feeding livestock, tilling the land, and evenings spent under the stars, listening to my father's stories. Life had rhythm, purpose, and structure. Then I met Sophia. She was different from the girls in my town, more polished, more ambitious. She wasn't the kind to get her hands dirty or wake up before dawn to attend to crops. She came from a family that valued wealth and success, though they weren't particularly rich themselves. I suppose that's what drove her, the hunger for something more. The first time I saw her, she was standing at the counter of a small bookstore in town, her nose buried in a business magazine. She looked so out of place in her pressed blouse and delicate gold bracelet, yet strangely, I found myself drawn to her. We started talking, and before I knew it, we were inseparable. She liked the way I saw the world, how simple yet structured my life was. I liked her fire, the way she dreamed big and made me feel like I could too. We balanced each other, or so I thought. Our relationship was fast, too fast maybe. Within 1 year, we were engaged. My parents, though cautious, gave their blessing and even paid for the wedding, not because I asked them to, but because they wanted to give us a good start. That's the kind of people they were. Giving, selfless. My father, a man of few words, pulled me aside the night before the wedding. His voice was gruff but gentle. "Son, love is more than just feelings. It's about respect, about having each other's backs when times get tough. Make sure she understands that too." I nodded, confident that Sophia and I were on the same page. After we got married, my parents bought us an apartment in the city, a place Sophia had always dreamed of living. I still remember the way her face lit up when we first stepped into that apartment. Marble floors, floor-to-ceiling windows, a kitchen she hardly ever used. It was everything she wanted, and because I wanted her to be happy, it became what I wanted too. I found a job at a construction firm, working long hours, saving every penny. Sophia, on the other hand, wasn't too keen on work. She tried a few office jobs but always found reasons to quit. "They don't pay me what I deserve," she'd say. "I'm meant for bigger things." I didn't argue, I just worked harder. At first, our marriage was good. We laughed, we planned for the future, and we lived comfortably, thanks to the support from my parents. They never let us struggle, always there to help with bills, buy us a new car, even cover vacations. My mother would remind me, "You're our only son. We just want you to be happy." I was grateful, but looking back, I realized now that Sophia wasn't. She saw their kindness as a given, something she was entitled to. "That's what parents do," she'd say whenever I thanked them. "They're supposed to help." I should have known then. I should have seen the signs, the little ways she dismissed hard work, the way she resented my roots, the way she never truly saw my parents' generosity for what it was. Love. But love makes you ignore the things you shouldn't, doesn't it? It was little things at first. She never wanted to visit my parents' farm. "It smells like manure," she complained. "I don't want to ruin my shoes." She hated when my father or mother asked for help with anything, whether it was fixing a fence or changing the oil in the car. "I married you, not your farm," she'd say with a laugh, as if it were a joke. I laughed too, because what else was I supposed to do? I loved her, and love meant compromise, didn't it? But now, looking back, I see it clearly. Sophia never compromised, she only took. Still, I held on, believing that one day she'd appreciate the life we had, the life I built for us. I just didn't know she had other plans. I always believed that love could smooth out differences, that if you worked hard enough at a marriage, if you gave it everything, then surely things would fall into place. That's what my parents taught me. Love was about patience, about standing by each other no matter how hard things got. But Sophia didn't see it that way. At first, it was subtle, little things that I brushed off, thinking they didn't mean much. She started complaining more about our home, about my job, about how she felt trapped in a life that wasn't going anywhere. "Nathan, don't you ever want more?" she asked one evening, staring out of our apartment window at the city lights. I frowned. "What do you mean?" She turned to face me, arms crossed. "I mean, look at us, living in this tiny apartment, working jobs that barely excite us. I don't want to be stuck in this cycle forever. I want a bigger life, don't you?" I did, but I also knew that big lives came from hard work. I told her we were building towards something, that these years of grinding would pay off, that one day we'd have enough to buy a house, start a business if we wanted, travel. One day, she echoed, sighing. She didn't like waiting, she didn't like effort, she wanted shortcuts. The visits to the farm, the tension between us grew every time I suggested visiting my parents. Do we have to? She'd groan. It's all always the same. Your dad lectures me on hard work. Your mom keeps asking when we're having kids. And the smell, Nathan, I can't. They're my family, Sophia, I reminded her. They've done so much for us. She rolled her eyes. That's exactly why we don't need to keep going back. They already like you. They already help us. What else do you owe them? That stung. I didn't owe my parents anything. I loved them. The last time we visited, my father pulled me aside, his brow furrowed. She's got city dreams, son. That's fine, but does she understand that real life isn't just about luxury? I laughed it off, but deep down his words planted a seed of doubt. Sophia wasn't lazy. At least that's what I told myself. She just wanted something different. She wasn't ungrateful. She just didn't understand where I came from. I made excuses for her because that's what love does, right? It makes you see what you want to see. But the more time passed, the clearer it became. I worked construction, long days of labor under the sun. It wasn't glamorous, but it was honest work, and I was good at it. Every evening I'd come home exhausted, covered in dust, only for Sophia to look at me with mild disgust. You're ruining the couch with all that dirt. I started showering the second I got home, just to avoid her complaining. She, on the other hand, barely worked. She took on jobs but quit after a few months. They don't pay me enough, she'd say. I deserve better. Better? We were 23 and 24. No one deserved a CEO position overnight. We had to earn it, but Sophia didn't see it that way. She started making new friends, people who lived flashy lives, who bragged about their travels, their expensive dates, their designer clothes. One night she came home glowing after dinner with one of these friends. Nathan, listen to this. Lauren's husband just invested in some tech startup and now they're millionaires. They barely have to work anymore. I ned. That's great for them. We should be doing things like that. Like what? She sighed, frustrated. Like finding ways to make money without slaving away for it. You work so hard, Nathan. We both do, but what if we could be smarter instead? That's when I knew she didn't want effort. She wanted easy money. She started talking about getting into luxury real estate, about flipping houses, about passive income. All things she had zero experience in. But to her, the idea of working a normal job seemed beneath her now. And when I told her that wealth was an instant, that every millionaire had to build their fortune from the ground up, she scoffed. That's such a small-minded way to think. That's when I realized she wasn't looking for success, she was looking for an escape. The turning point, the final straw, came when she suggested I quit my job and think bigger. Nathan, construction is fine for now, but don't you want to do something bigger with your life? Like what, Sophia? Pay our rent with hopes and dreams? She rolled her eyes. No, but you could try investing. We could take risks. If we put money into something that pays off, we'd never have to work again. My parents paid for our wedding, they bought us this apartment, they covered our vacations, and now she wanted me to risk it all on some fantasy. I didn't argue. I just let her talk because, by then, I understood. Sophia never wanted partnership. She wanted a way out, and I had a sinking feeling she was going to find one soon. It happened on a Tuesday, a completely normal, uneventful Tuesday. I remember it because I had just come home from work, exhausted, my boots still caked in dust. Sophia was sitting on the couch, scrolling through her phone, like she usually did when I got home. But something was different that day. She wasn't just scrolling, she was grinning, a grin I hadn't seen in years. I sat down my lunchbox and walked over. What's up? She didn't even look at me, just kept staring at her phone, her fingers typing away furiously. My Uncle Martin died. I blinked. What? She said it so casually, like she was talking about the weather. I knew she had an uncle, a wealthy businessman who lived in another state, but they had never been close. She barely ever spoke about him. I sat down, unsure of how to respond. I'm sorry, are you okay? She finally looked up, her eyes bright, her grin even wider. Nathan, don't be sorry. This is the best news ever. My stomach twisted. What do you mean? She leaned forward, her hands shaking with excitement. He left me everything. $10 million, Nathan, $1 million. I felt my jaw tighten. Wait, what? His business, his houses, all of it. He had no kids, no wife. I'm his only blood relative. I just got off the phone with the lawyer. It's all mine. I should have been happy for her, should have smiled, hugged her, celebrated. After all, wasn't this what she had always wanted? Wealth, freedom, a life where she didn't have to work a day in her life? But instead I felt something else, something cold, something wrong. She barely knew her uncle. She barely spoke to him, and yet here she was, grinning about his death like she had just won the lottery. I swallowed the unease and forced a smile. "That's a lot of money, Sophia." She clapped her hands together like an excited child. "I know, can you believe it? We're rich, Nathan. We don't have to struggle anymore." "We?" I didn't say anything, just nodded, but something in me knew there was no we in this. The shift that night, Sophia didn't sleep. She stayed up for hours, pacing, making lists, calling people, planning. By the next morning, I knew she wasn't thinking about our future together. She was thinking about her future, without me. She started acting different almost immediately. She quit her job, when she barely worked at anyway, without even bothering to tell me. I only found out when I noticed she was still home at noon, sipping a emo like a woman on permanent vacation. She stopped cooking, stopped doing anything around the apartment. Not that she ever did much, but now it was like she didn't even see me anymore. It wasn't long before she started dressing differently. Designer bags, expensive heels, outfits that screamed money. But the biggest change, she stopped pretending to care. She started going out alone, coming home at odd hours, barely speaking to me except to bark out demands. The confession, one evening she came home late, practically glowing. I was sitting at the kitchen table, eating leftovers from the night before. She waltzed in, heels clicking against the floor, a bottle of expensive champagne in one hand. I looked up. "Where were you?" She smirked. "Celebrating." I put my fork down. "Celebrating what?" She poured herself a glass of champagne and took a slow sip before answering. "My new life." I stared at her. "So, Sophia, what the hell does that mean?" She set her glass down and met my gaze, her expression unreadable. Then, in the coldest voice I had ever heard, she said, "I never loved you, Nathan." Silence, the kind that makes your ears ring. I swallowed, my hands clenched under the table. "What?" She sighed, rolling her eyes, like she was annoyed that she had to explain it. "I was young, stupid. I thought marrying you would give me stability. But let's be honest, Nathan, you were never enough for me." I felt something inside me crack. "Then why did you marry me?" She shrugged, completely unfazed. "Because I thought I had no choice. I was stuck. Your parents had money, and I figured if I played my cards right, I'd never have to work. But now," she smiled, slow and cruel, "now I don't need you anymore." I sat there staring at her, feeling like I had been punched in the gut. She wasn't done. "I want a divorce." The words landed like a hammer. I gripped the edge of the table, my knuckles turning white. "You're leaving me because you have money now?" She laughed. "Obviously." The final blow, I felt 1,000 emotions at once. Rage, humiliation, betrayal, but most of all, relief. Because now I knew. Now I saw her for what she really was. I took a deep breath and nodded. "Okay." That made her pause. "Wait, what?" I stood up, wiped my hands on a napkin, and met her gaze with calm, steady eyes. "You want a divorce? Fine, but I'm keeping the house." Her smirk faltered. "What?" I smiled, slow and deliberate. "You don't need it, right? You're rich. You can buy 100 houses. But this one." I patted the kitchen counter. "This one stays with me." She opened her mouth, then shut it. I could see the wheels turning in her head. She didn't care about this place anymore. It wasn't good enough for her. Finally, she shrugged. "Fine. Keep your little house. I have bigger things waiting for me." And with that, she walked away, already calling someone, already planning her next move. I watched her go, my stomach tight with something I couldn't quite name. She thought she had one. She had no idea what was coming next. You would think after a betrayal like that, after hearing the woman I spent years loving and supporting tell me to my face that I was nothing to her, that I'd explode, that I'd scream, throw things, demand answers. But I didn't. I just stood there, watching Sophia gather her things like she was just switching apartments instead of walking out on our marriage. She hummed to herself as she packed her designer bags, barely giving me a second glance. She was already somewhere else in her mind, picturing herself in a penthouse, rubbing shoulders with the rich and powerful, living the life she always believed she deserved. She had no idea that the ground was already crumbling beneath her feet. And me? I wasn't going to stop her. I was going to let her walk right into her own downfall. Keeping the house. The first thing I did was make sure that I secured the house. Now, Sophia never cared about the house. It wasn't flashy, it wasn't in some high-end neighborhood, and in her mind, it was a temporary stepping stone, a place to X, until she moved on to something better. That was her mistake. Because while she was busy dreaming about million-dollar mansions, I was making sure she left behind the one real asset we owned. The divorce process was surprisingly smooth. She was so eager to be rid of me that she barely even read the papers. I made sure to keep the house in my name, something she waved off with a dismissive laugh. "Enjoy your little house, Nathan," she smirked. "I've got bigger things waiting for me." I smiled back. "I'm sure you do." watching her fall. The first few weeks after she left, she was everywhere. Social media flooded with pictures of her in expensive restaurants, draped in new clothes, sipping cocktails with people I had never seen before. She didn't post about me. I had been erased, like I had never existed. Good, because while she was busy spending, I was busy waiting. Then, little by little, the cracks started to show. The flashy lifestyle she jumped into so quickly, it came with a price. And for the first time in her life, Sophia was the one paying. Reality sets in. A month after she left, I got the first call. Not from her, of course, from one of her so-called new friends. "Hey Nathan, this is Dan. You probably don't remember me, but I was at a few parties with Sophia. Listen, man, I don't want to get in the middle of anything, but does she actually have money?" I leaned back in my chair, keeping my voice neutral. "Why do you ask?" He hesitated. "Well, she's been borrowing money a lot. And I mean, we were cool with it at first, drinks, fancy dinners, all that, but she's starting to avoid people when they ask to be paid back." I almost laughed. Sophia didn't have a single clue how money worked. She thought $10 million meant infinite wealth, that she could throw it around like some A's with an endless trust fund. But money runs out, especially when you don't know how to hold on to it. The inevitable call. Another month passed before she finally called me. It was late. I was sitting on the porch, a cold beer in my hand, watching the stars, when my phone buzzed. I saw her name, I let it ring. When it went to voicemail, I played the message on speaker, letting the night air carry her voice.
"Nathan, hey, I know it's been a while."
I just wanted to check in, see how you're doing. We should talk." She didn't sound confident. She sounded hesitant, almost nervous, and that told me everything I needed to know. She wasn't calling to check in. She was calling because the money was slipping through her fingers. I didn't call back. I wanted her to feel it, the uncertainty, the panic, the slow realization that she had burned the only real bridge she ever had. The final blow. 2 weeks later, I saw the headline. It was in the business section of the local news. "Millionaire's estate buried in debt, family left with nothing." I read the entire article twice. Uncle Martin, the man she thought had left her an empire, he had been drowning in debt. Turns out his business had been struggling for years. He had taken out loans, betting on a last-minute comeback that never happened. When he died, all that wealth, it went straight to the creditors. Sophia's inheritance wasn't $10 million, it was $10 million of debt. The moment of truth. That same night, she showed up at the house. She looked different. Gone was the confidence, the expensive clothes, the smug expression. She looked small, weak, and desperate. She stood on my porch, shivering slightly, as I leaned against the door frame, arms crossed. "Nathan, please, can we talk?" I didn't move, didn't blink, just watched her. "Talk about what?" She bit her lip, glancing away. "I lost everything." I sighed, pretending to think. "Yeah, I saw that." Her eyes snapped back to mine, wide with pleading. "I messed up, Nathan. I see that now. You were the only real thing I had, the only person who ever truly cared about me." She reached for my hand. I didn't move. She swallowed. "Please, just let me come inside. We can fix this, together." I let her stand there for a long moment, letting the silence stretch. Then, finally, I spoke. "You know, Sophia, you once told me you never loved me, that you didn't need me anymore." Her face crumpled. "Nathan, I stepped back and shut the door right in her face. And for the first time since she left, I finally felt free. I slept better that night than I had in years. There was something about finally seeing the truth for what it was, without all the illusions, without the false promises, that settled something deep inside me. For so long, I'd believed that love meant giving, that if I gave enough, if I worked hard enough, if I was patient enough, things would fall into place. But love isn't just about giving, it's about receiving. And Sophia, she had never been a giver, she had only ever taken. But now she had nothing left to take, and I had nothing left to give. The reality of the money. A few days after she showed up at my door, the real details of her inheritance started coming out. At first, when she had found out about the supposed $10 million, she hadn't asked questions. She hadn't gone through the paperwork carefully. She had just seen the numbers, imagined the wealth, and started spending like she already had it in her hands. But what she didn't realize was that her Uncle Martin had left behind a financial mess. He had borrowed millions to try to save his failing business. He had been investing in a real estate project that never took off, and worse, his entire estate was under legal dispute. The moment the lawyers dug into the details, the truth became clear. Her inheritance wasn't an asset, it was a liability. She wasn't going to inherit millions, she was going to inherit debt. And the creditors, they were already lining up at her door. I knew things were bad when I saw her car listed for sale online. A month ago, she had been bragging about upgrading to a brand new luxury vehicle. Now she was practically begging for someone to buy off her hands. I even saw a post she had made on social media, one she probably thought I wouldn't see. Some things in life don't work out, but at the end of the day, we just have to move forward and rebuild. Hashtag fresh start, hashtag stronger than ever. She was already spinning the story. She wasn't going to admit she had lost everything. She was going to pretend this was all part of her plan. But I knew the truth, and soon so would everyone else. The calls from her friends. It wasn't long before people started reaching out to me. At first, it was people I barely even recognized, the same ones who had been drinking champagne with her a few weeks ago, the ones who had laughed at me behind my back while she was parading around as if she were royalty. "Hey Nathan, so you and Sophia aren't together anymore, huh?" "Yeah." "Wow man, that's crazy. I always thought you two were solid." "You thought we were solid? You mean you thought she had me wrapped around her finger?" "Listen, has she, tried to ask you for money yet?" That made me pause. "What?" The guy on the other end, some friend of hers named Leo, laughed nervously. "Yeah man, she's been asking around. First it was just borrowing small amounts, but now she's talking about temporary loans and investments." "Ah, so she was finally getting desperate." I smirked. "She hasn't asked me for anything yet." Yet. I had a feeling that was about to change. Sure enough, it happened that night, another call, another voicemail. But this time she didn't bother pretending to check in. Her voice was frantic, rushed. "Nathan, listen, I know we left things on bad terms, but I really need to talk to you. It's urgent. Please just call me back." I didn't, not right away. I let her sit with her panic for a little longer, let her feel what it was like to be ignored, to be left out in the cold, to realize that she had burned every last bridge. Then, when I finally called back, I made sure my voice was calm, controlled. "What do you need, Sophia?" She hesitated, like she wasn't expecting me to be so direct. "Nathan, I made some mistakes." I leaned back, my fingers drumming against the table.
"Oh yes? And I know we didn't end on the best terms, but you and I..."
"You mean when you told me you never loved me," I interrupted, "or when you told me you didn't need me anymore?" Silence, then a deep breath. "Nathan, please, there it was, the real reason she was calling. She wasn't sorry, she wasn't suddenly realizing she had lost the best thing that ever happened to her, she just needed money. I wasn't going to give it to her, but I wanted to hear her say it. "What do you need, Sophia?" She exhaled sharply. I don't have anywhere to go right now. I need help, just until I can get back on my feet." I let that sit between us for a second. Then I asked, "How much?" Her voice lowered. 50,000. I laughed. I actually laughed. 50,000? You really think I'm going to hand you $50,000 after you walked out on me? She sounded offended. "Nathan, I'm not asking for a handout. It's just temporary. Once everything is sorted out, I'll pay you back." "With what money, Sophia?" More silence. She had no answer because she had nothing, and she knew it. The last word. I took a deep breath and finally told her the truth. "Sophia, listen to me. You made your choice. You walked out of this house, out of this marriage, and told me to my face that you didn't love me. Now, suddenly, you need me? Sorry, but I'm not your safety net." Her breath hitched. I wasn't done. "You wanted wealth, you wanted a fresh start. Well, now you've got it. Enjoy it." And with that, I hung up, and for the first time in a long time, I felt nothing but peace. They say karma doesn't miss, that no matter how long it takes, it always finds its way home. I never used to think about karma much. I figured people made their choices, and life just happened. But after Sophia walked out of my life, after she spent her inheritance like it was burning a hole in her hands, after she dismissed me like some unwanted relic from her past, I believed, because I watched karma tear her world apart. The beginning of the fall. The night I turned her down for money, Sophia didn't call again, not for a while at least. At first, she probably still had hope. Maybe she thought she could charm her way back into the good graces of the people she once surrounded herself with. After all, she had been the center of attention, the girl with a fortune at her fingertips, the one who could buy rounds of drinks without blinking, who dripped in designer brands and walked with the confidence of someone untouchable. But money doesn't just disappear, it runs out, and when it does, so do the people. Sophia must have learned that the hard way because, not long after our last conversation, I started hearing stories from her old friends, from mutual acquaintances, from people who had once worshipped her wealth and were now laughing at her behind her back. She was a joke now. It started slow. First, she appeared from social media. No more luxury dinners, no more glamorous selfies, no more living my best life. Then, the people who used to idolize her started whispering about her behind closed doors. "Did you hear? She's selling off her designer bags. I saw her trying to get into a VIP event the other day. They didn't even let her in. She borrowed money from me last month and hasn't paid it back. The same people she had abandoned me for, the same ones who had encouraged her to leave behind her ordinary life, they were watching her drown. And they didn't care. Her fake friends disappeared. One night, I got a text from Dan, the same guy who had called me before. Dan, bro, I just saw your ex. She was at this party last week, trying to act like she still runs things. It was embarrassing. I stared at the message for a second before replying. Me, how so? Dan, she was going around asking people if they knew of any investment opportunities. I laughed out loud at that one. Sophia had always hated the idea of work. She had spent our entire marriage looking for shortcuts, looking for ways to live without ever lifting a finger, and now she was desperate. Her luxury lifestyle crumbled. One day I passed by her old favorite cafe, the one she used to drag me to when we were together, and there she was, sitting at a corner table, staring down at her phone, looking nervous. The barista brought her coffee, and I saw her reach into her bag, hesitating for a second before handing over cash instead of a credit card. That's when it hit me. Her accounts were probably frozen. She had no more cards to swipe, no more endless shopping spree or expensive meals. And judging by the way she sat, hunched over her phone, she was probably waiting for a text back from someone she owed money to. I stood there for a moment, watching. A part of me almost felt sorry for her, almost. But then I remembered her words, "I never loved you, Nathan. I don't need you anymore." And just like that, any sympathy I had vanished. The knock on my door. I should have known she'd come back one more time. When I heard the knock, I didn't even need to check who it was. I opened the door, and there she stood, soaked from the rain, mascara smudged, hair tangled. For a moment, neither of us spoke. Then she let out a shaky breath. "Nathan, can we talk?" I leaned against the doorframe, arms crossed. "About what?" Her lip trembled. I just need some help, just for a little while." I raised an eyebrow. "Help? The last time we talked, you said you didn't need me." She flinched. I know I said a lot of things, but Nathan, please, I made a mistake." She took a step forward and I held up a hand. "Stop." She froze. I tilted my head. "Let me guess, the money's gone." Tears welled up in her eyes. "I don't have anywhere to go." There it was, the truth, not remorse, not love, just desperation. And she had the audacity to expect me to save her. I sighed, stepping back just enough to point at the street behind her.
"Then I guess you'd better start walking."
Her breath hitched. "Nathan, please." I shook my head. No. I wasn't going to rescue her. I wasn't going to let her slink back into my life, expecting forgiveness. She had made her choice, and karma had made sure she paid for it. Without another word, I closed the door, and just like that, Sophia became nothing more than a memory. Moving on without her, I never saw her again after that night. I heard rumors, of course, that she tried to move back in with an old friend, only to be kicked out a month later. That she tried to rekindle an old flame, but no one wanted to take on her baggage. Eventually, she disappeared from town, no social media, no texts, no phone calls. It was like she had never existed. And me? I kept my house. I kept my dignity. And most importantly, I kept my peace. Because karma, she always delivers. I should have known she wasn't gone for good. People like Sophia don't just disappear, they linger, circling back when they think there's still something left to take. The first time she knocked on my door, in the rain, I thought that was it. The final, desperate plea before she faded into the past. But no, that was just the beginning. Because Sophia, she wasn't just desperate, she was drowning. The second knock. It was a Sunday afternoon. I had just finished mowing the lawn, enjoying the kind of peaceful life I had built for myself, one without her. Then, the knock came. I almost ignored it, but something told me to check. And there she was. Not in the rain this time, not crying, not shaking. No, this time, she had rehearsed. She stood there in a clean, fitted dress, her hair neatly styled, a soft smile on her lips. The perfect picture of someone who had gotten her life together. Except her eyes gave her away. They were scanning me, calculating, looking for a way in. I didn't say a word, just leaned against the doorframe, waiting. Finally, she spoke. "Nathan." She let out a small, practiced laugh. "It's been a while." I nodded. "Yeah, what do you want?" Her smile didn't falter, but I saw the slight twitch in her fingers. She hadn't expected me to be so blunt. "Can we talk?" she asked, tilting her head. "Just for a few minutes?" I sigh, arms crossed. "You want to talk?" "Fine, talk." She hesitated, then let out a small breath. "I owe you an apology." Now that was new. I raised an eyebrow. For what? Her expression softened, too soft, too forced. For everything. The way she said it, it was so vague, so carefully non-specific that I almost laughed. I didn't take the bait. You have to be more specific. She blinked, then let out a small sigh. For leaving you, for how I treated you, for making the mistakes I did. Mistakes, not choices, not betrayals, just mistakes. I nodded slowly. You regret leaving? Her eyes lit up, hopeful. Yes, I smirked. Or do you regret losing the money? And just like that, the mask slipped. For half a second, she glared, a quick flash of irritation, before she caught herself, rearranging her face into something softer, more pitiful. Nathan, come on, that's not fair. I shrugged. Isn't it? Silence stretched between us. Then she changed tactics, the real reason she was here. She stepped closer, dropping the apologetic act. Look, Nathan, I know things ended badly between us, but we were married. We had a life together. You can't just shut me out like this. I raised an eyebrow. Why not? She blinked. Because. I waited. She didn't finish her sentence because she had no real reason. I tilted my head. Let me guess, you need a place to stay. She swallowed. Ah, there it is. This wasn't about an apology, it wasn't about regret. She needed something, and I wasn't about to give it to her. The last straw. I sighed, rubbing my jaw. Sophia, listen to me. You made your choice. You walked out of this house, out of this marriage, and told me to my face that you didn't need me anymore. Now suddenly you do? Her lip trembled. I was wrong. I shrugged. Yeah, you were. She took a shaky breath, dropping all pretense. Nathan, I have nowhere to go. That's not my problem. I said it gently but firmly, because it wasn't, not anymore. She looked at me like she couldn't believe what she was hearing. Like she had expected me to be the same man she walked all over, the man who would have let her back in, no questions asked. But that man, he didn't exist anymore. I stepped back and shut the door in her face. The aftermath. I didn't check the window, didn't watch her leave, didn't wonder where she'd go because I didn't care. I walked to the kitchen, poured myself a drink, and sat at the table, my table, in my house, the one she had walked away from like it was worthless. I let out of breath, and for the first time in years I felt completely, truly free. Final closure. That was the last time I saw her. Maybe she found someone else to leech off, maybe she kept running until there was nowhere left to run. But me, I kept moving forward because life doesn't stop for people who made the wrong choices. And karma never forgets. You know what they say, revenge is a dish best served cold. But the truth, I didn't need revenge. I didn't need to ruin Sophia, she had already done that to herself. All I had to do was sit back and watch. The final call. It was a quiet evening when my phone rang again. I knew who it was before I even looked. Sophia. I stared at the screen for a long moment, debating whether to answer or let her sink further into the mess she had created. But curiosity got the best of me, so I picked up. Nathan? She sounded different, hollow, like she had been running on fumes for weeks. I didn't say anything, just waited. Finally, she spoke. I know you hate me, and I don't blame you. That was new. I raised an eyebrow. Go on. She let out a slow breath. I lost everything, I know. Silence. Then her voice cracked. I have nowhere to go, no one left to turn to. I waited, knowing what was coming. Nathan, can I come back? I leaned back in my chair, staring at the ceiling. Once upon a time, I would have said yes, without hesitation. I would have let her walk right back in, no questions asked, no consequences given. But that man, the man who loved her blindly, who believed in her despite every warning sign, he was gone. So I asked the one question that had been burning in my mind since she left. Why? Her breath hitched. What do you mean? Why do you want to come back? Because I miss you. I smiled, slow and knowing. No, you don't. She faltered. Nathan, you don't miss me. You miss the safety, the security, the fact that I would have fought for you no matter what. I could hear her holding back tears. I sighed. You made your Sophia, and now you have to live with it. Then, before she could argue, I hung up. And just like that, I was done watching her fade. I never answered another call from her after that night, and over time she disappeared. At first I heard rumors that she tried to stay with old friends, but no one wanted the burden. That she attempted to restart her life, but without money, without influence, no one cared. She had burned every bridge, and now she had to face the consequences alone. Karma's final strike. One day I saw an article, Business Mogul's estate officially declared bankrupt, heir left with nothing. It was public now. Everyone knew. All those people who once flocked to Sophia, who showered her with attention when she was throwing money around, they saw her for what she was, a fraud. And I felt nothing. Not pity, not satisfaction, just peace. Moving forward. I kept the house, the same house she walked away from like it was worthless. I kept working, building, growing. I didn't need revenge, because the best revenge was thriving, and that's exactly what I did, while she faded into nothing.